Well, hello, all, and welcome to episode 45 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show, the most comprehensive entertainment news show on the internet. I am, of course, Nate Schaffner, otherwise known as the Unstoppable Nate, and I am very glad to be back. I hope you guys have been doing well. I got a great show for you today. I might do more than one show today, but we'll see. Um, but anyway, so I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope you guys are doing well. Um, Before I get started, I just wanted to remind everybody that if you like this show, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, spread the word. Also, if you have a question, a comment, or if you'd like me to talk about certain movies or franchises, you can email me anytime at the address listed. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. At the address listed in the description of this video. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started with this. So, I think it was um, either last episode or the episode before that. I was talking about this. I mentioned that there's this movie coming with um, Renee Zellweger titled Phantom Son. And it's going to be about a young runaway struggling to survive on the street, um, who's taken in by this character named Audrey, who is going to be played by Renee Zellweger. So there's been more casting news regarding um, that movie. This article is on Joe Blow, published by Cody Haman. Also, the movie is going to be directed by David Yates, who directed the final 4 films in the Harry Potter series and the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies. Um, so, a little ways. So, this article is on Joe Blow, published by Cody Haman. Um, so, a little ways down here in this article, um, it says that Deadline has revealed that uh, Spike Fern, who is in Alien Romulus, um, he is going to be he has been cast in the movie, and he is going to be playing the young uh, he will be playing the role of Ronnie, who is the young runaway struggling to survive on the street. So Spike Fern is going to be playing that role. You know, I I loved Spike Fern in Alien Romulus. You know, there's something in the fucking water. You know, I loved Alien Romulus as well. I mean, not that that has anything to do with this movie, but I think there were a lot of great characters in Alien Romulus, and Spike Fern played a great character in that. And you know, um, I I'm not sure quite how to say this, but being in a movie with Renee Zellweger, who has been doing this a long time, and she's an Oscar winning actress. Um, I think if this movie is good and working alongside an actress the caliber of a Renee Zellweger, will elevate um, Spike Fern's status even more to be in such a high profile project. And like I said, I like Spike Fern in Alien Romulus. I think he was one of the uh, not not the standout performance, but certainly one of them. There were a lot of great performances in that movie, to be honest. But Spike Fern was great, and it'll be great to see him in this movie with Renee Zellweger, who I love. I love, ever since I saw Chicago. Renee Zellweger is one of my favorite actresses. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about Spike Fern joining Phantom Son. Okay, so moving on here, and this next bit of news is very exciting for anybody. One of my favorite franchises is the 28 days, weeks, years later movies. I love them. I love them. I thoroughly enjoy them. And this news, I earlier this week I saw 28 years later the Bone Temple, and it's awesome. It's great. Now, I am apparently one of the few people that loved the previous installment as well, the 28 years later. There's 28 years later, and then there's 28 years later the Bone Temple, which just came out. I loved both of them, but apparently I'm in the minority. And what's interesting, and I heard somebody say this, and I agreed with him. I said, this guy said, the last 28 years later, and 28 years later, the Bone Temple are meant to be seen, even though they're released 6 months apart. They're meant to be one movie. And I agreed with that. I mean, and they're both great. Nia DaCosta, who directed the Bone Temple, did a. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. Um, and I thoroughly enjoy this franchise. So this article is very exciting for me. Um, and anybody who's a fan of this franchise. And I really liked. I loved 28 Days Later. I did like 28 Weeks Later. I thought it was different, and it's not it's not as good as the first one. But again, it didn't really need to be. I just wanted a good movie, and 28 Weeks Later, I thought was good. Um, so this article, and I should preface this by saying there is going to be minor spoilers for this announcement. So this article is on Joe Blow, published by Kevin Fraser. Um, so, and this article says that Sony Pictures is moving forward with 28 Years Later 3. Deadline reports that Alex Garland is currently writing the script for the third installment, with Cillian Murphy in talks to reprise his role as Jim, the character he played in 28 Days Later. Okay, now, and again, spoiler alert. Cillian Murphy, Jim, does appear at the end of the Bone Temple, and it's not this. It's not kind. It's not this heroic kind of magnificent entrance. Like it's and I don't mean this in a negative way. It feels natural. It's not this dramatic superhero like entrance. It's this natural human appearance that it's not over the top, it's not overly dramatic. It's just this naturalistic, like all of a sudden we cut to Jim and it's just like, oh, that's great to see him, and again, I'm struggling to find the right words, but it feels natural. It doesn't feel superhero like entrance. It feels like a naturalistic human appearance in the movie. Um, so Killian Murphy is in talks to reprise his role in 28 Years Later 3. Um, and, well, first of all, in terms of, I feel like, okay, so in terms of Killian Murphy being in talks to return, I feel like this could go one of two ways. I feel like, given the ending of the Bone Temple, I feel like if Killian Murphy wasn't in 28 Years Later 3, and again, I say this because it's not confirmed, he's in negotiations. I feel like if Killian Murphy wasn't in 28 Years Later 3, and I say this as a big fan of him, he's one of my favorite actors, and but I say this as kind of, I'm in, it would be great if he's in 28 Years Later 3, great. If he's not, that's fine too. Like, um, I'm not partial either way. Um, the ending of the Bone Temple, I feel like 28 Years Later 3 could go one of two ways. Either Killian Murphy becomes a main character in 28 Years Later 3, much like he was in the original film, or if you've seen the Bone Temple, you know what happens, and it could pick up after Jim does what Jim and his uh, child um, do at the end of the movie, and that was it. Um, I'm good either way. I mean, would it be great to see Killian Murphy back as Jim? Fuck yeah, it would. That would be great. That would be such a full circle moment. Um, but I'm more excited. I mean, I'd be excited if Killian Murphy came back. Don't get me wrong, but I'm more excited that we're getting a 28 Years Later 3, because these, and again, apparently I'm in the minority. I loved 28 Years Later uh, and the Bone Temple. I loved both of them. I mean, Ray Fiennes in the Bone Temple is so good. He's so good. Um, you know, again, Killian Murphy being one of my favorite actors. I remember the first time I saw him was in Batman Begins as the Scarecrow, and he was great. You know, um, I when I went to go see the Bone Temple, his appearance did get quite a reaction. Um, uh, and um, you know, I hope he comes back, but if not, it is what it is. But I'm more excited that we're getting a third movie. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about 28 Years Later 3 being in development and Killian Murphy being in talks to um, return. All right, so this next bit of news is regarding one of my favorite actors, Paul Dano. I first saw Paul Dano probably in the movie that everyone else first saw him in was There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis, that was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and he's brilliant in that movie. Paul Dano is awesome, and he's been in a lot of interesting movies. Um, and most recently, I thought his Riddler, when he played the Riddler in the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, his Riddler was twisted and psychotic, and I loved it. I loved it, and Paul Dano is one of my favorite actors, and um, So there is this movie that he has joined. So um, there's this upcoming psychological thriller movie called Bunker that stars real life couple Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz, both of whom I love. Um, so um, let me see here. Um, so this it's this psychological thriller movie called Bunker. Um, it and a little ways down here, it gives a synopsis of the movie. Uh, Bunker explores the unraveling of a family as a mysterious construction project, a bunker commissioned by a powerful tech mogul, begins to infiltrate their lives. I believe uh, news of this movie broke uh, several months ago, and so this article reveals that Paul Dano is uh, has joined the cast of this movie. Um, Paul Dano was in Little Miss Sunshine, and so I so Paul Dano has joined the cast of this movie. Bunker explores the unraveling of a family as a mysterious construction project begins to infiltrate their lives. I would love if Paul Dano played that tech mogul who and he kind of creepily infiltrates their lives and kind of tries to tear them apart. I would love that. I think that would. I mean, and I trying not to. Paul Dano was the kind of actor that could make that kind of role really diabolical. I don't mean to sound like I'm not. I'm not saying anything negative about Paul Dano when I say that, but I think there's a complexity to that kind of character that I think Paul Dano could pull off very well. And I'm very excited for this movie. You have Javier Bardem, Penelope Cruz, and Paul Dano. I believe the movie is already in production, so it's already started filming, and uh, I am very excited about this movie. Especially, I love psychological thrillers, um, and this movie sounds really interesting. It sounds really interesting. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about Paul Dano joining the cast of this movie. Okay, so this next bit of news um, has to do with some comic book movie news. So I am a huge fan of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse movies. I remember I went with a good friend of mine, uh, George. I'm forgetting his last name, and I do apologize. But I went to film school with him in Pittsburgh. His name is George, and we went to go see Into the Spider-Verse, and that movie blew my mind. That Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is great, and Across the Spider-Verse is just as good, if not better. Across the Spider-Verse is awesome. Now, but unfortunately, we have to wait a few more years for Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is unfortunate because I cannot wait for that movie. Now, there was a character in Across the Spider-Verse um, voiced by Daniel Kaluuya. There was a character, uh, the character of Spider Punk, that was in Across the Spider Verse. Now, for those who don't know, let me just give you a brief background into the character of Spider Punk. Spider Punk is basically this. I mean, he's got the same powers and abilities as Spider Man. But in addition to that, he's very much this anti authority, anti establishment character. You know, he's got this. Obviously, he's this punk rocker, and it's an awesome character. Um, so uh, there's been a spin-off announced regarding the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse movies. This article is on MovieWeb, published by Marcos Melendez. And a little ways down here, it says that Deadline reports that an animated film based on Spider-Punk from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is in early development. Daniel Kaluuya is set to reprise his role as well as co-write the screenplay alongside Ajon Singh. No director is attached to the project, but it seems to be the next Spider-Verse film heading to cinemas after Beyond the Spider-Verse in 2027. Can I just say really quick that it really, really sucks that we have to wait till 2027 to get Beyond the Spider-Verse? That blows. Anyway. So, yeah, so a Spider-Punk movie is in early development. And I think this could be great. I don't know what it says about me. I really respond to and I don't know why, but I really respond to anti-authority, anti-establishment kind of characters. I think there's a there's this idea in the world that just because you I'm not talking about anyone in specific. I'm just speaking I'm just speaking generally. There is this idea in the world that just because you are in a position of power, you can do whatever the hell you want. And again, I'm not talking about anyone specific. I honest to God, I'm talking about anyone who is in a position of power, that you are free to throw your weight around and do whatever you please. And I fucking hate that. So I guess that's why I've always responded to anti-authority, anti-establishment kind of characters. And the character of Spider-Punk is definitely one of those. And I really love that character. And I think I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but when I hear that a Spider-Punk animated movie is in early development, I'm like, sign me up. Like, I want to see that movie. I want to see Hobie Brown. I believe his name is Hobie Brown. I want to see Spider-Punk do what he does best. I want to see 2 hours of that shit. And I mean, the only thing that sucks about this is that we have to wait till after Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out to get this movie. Um, so that's the only thing that kind of sucks about this. But I am excited that we're getting a Spider-Punk animated feature. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts about that, about a Spider-Punk animated movie. Okay, so this next bit of news is odd, I think, at least to me. So, and I say this all the time, but there is a long, sad history of video game to film adaptations. And again, recently there have been exceptions to that rule. But generally speaking, uh, the one rule in life is that all video game movies suck. I wish that was my joke. It's not. Um, I heard that on another podcast. So I I used to be and I don't think I've ever said this before, but I used to be a real big gamer. I but I haven't been in about 10 years. So I know there are certain video games that people that are popular now that I have no idea what they are. Like I've never even heard of them. There's something going on with my hair. Yes. Yes. Sorry, this is odd. All right. Uh I don't know what that was. Anyway, um so there is this open world sandbox video game called Wobbly Life. Um that uh is going to be this article is on Screen Rant, published by Tatiana Hullander. Um, Let me just read this article here. The open world sandbox of Wobbly Life just got bigger as developer Rubber Band Games is announcing a new partnership with Adrian Ascari and Prime Universe Films. The production company is now set to develop, the community-driven game, which has already amassed millions of global fans for film and television. This won't be Prime Universe's first foray into the world of adapting gaming properties for the screen, as they are currently best known for 2007's Hitman, starring Timothy Olyphant. I don't know if that would be a big claim to fame, that movie. And 2015's Hitman Agent 47, starring Rupert Friend. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Both films are based on IO Interactive's best-selling Hitman video game franchise, and Ascari is executive producing a television series for 20th Television that continues to expand the universe. Wobbly Life has already had quite the journey, from a one-man show back in 2019 to a full franchise played across the globe. Rubber Band Games founder and director Thomas Dunn has seen the project grow to over 2.8 million units sold worldwide, with 6 million total players across all platforms, and he owes it all to the gaming community. Let me see here. So, I don't know too much about this game, I mean. So, okay. So it's an open world game It's physics based, where players complete jobs and missions to earn money, which they can spend on customizing their character with clothes, vehicles, and houses. The objective: get a job to earn money and live your best wobbly life, with the goal of buying your own house. Okay. I mean, I this sounds challenging to adapt into film and television. Um, take on over 100 unique jobs and story missions, find hidden treasures, and explore the world. Unlock and purchase hundreds of clothing items, vehicles, and accessories. The game is built around fun, wacky physics that make everything interactive. All right. This sounds any kind of this sounds challenging to adapt into film or television. Excuse me just a second. Um, okay. So, um, yeah, this sounds challenging. I don't know any other word to use. I don't know this. To me, this sounds like if you were to adapt the Grand Theft Auto video game. Not that I'm comparing Wobbly Life to Grand Theft Auto, but Grand Theft Auto is very much an open world game where you get to do whatever you want. This sounds like if they were to adapt a Grand Theft Auto video game into a movie, like how do you do that? Like I just don't know. Um, and applying real world physics, the challenge with adapting an open world video game is to construct a narrative. That's going to be the challenge. Um, I also I don't want the I don't want the I don't want anybody to put the cart before the horse and oh, we're going to do film and television, blah blah blah, and it's like, hold on, let's make sure it works first before we do anything more with it. This I'm dubious about this, quite honestly. And this is someone, look, I know nothing about the game. I just read off the synopsis about the game right there. The challenge is going to be creating the narrative about it. I don't know if they can do that. I hope it works. I'm dubious about it, to be honest with you. So I don't know. This sounds like, to me, like on paper, this sounds like it could fall flat on its face, to be honest. But I hope that I'm wrong. Um, so I don't have much more to offer on that, mostly because I'm not too familiar with Wobbly Life. I've talked about what I think are challenges in this. So jump in like, are you guys familiar with Wobbly Life? Let me know in the comment section, and uh, what do you think about this being adapted to film and television? All right, so next bit of news here. Okay, so uh, speaking of video game to film adaptations that awful, turned out to be awful. Um, there was this uh, movie that came out, the quickly forgotten. There was this quickly forgotten film adaptation of Alone in the Dark that came out in 2005. that starred Christian Slater and Tara Reid. And it was directed by, I want to say, yeah, 2005. Um, Christian Slater and Tara Reid. And it was directed by Uwe Boll, a director by the name of Uwe Boll. He's a German director. And I cannot emphasize enough. It was based on the Alone in the Dark video games, obviously. I cannot emphasize this enough. The Alone in the Dark movie is not just a bad, it's not just an awful video game to film adaptation. It is one of the worst movies, not just video game to film movies, but one of the worst movies ever made. Ever. Like, I've seen my fair share of bad films. Alone in the Dark is one of the worst movies ever made. And one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So, and it was directed by German director Uwe Boll. Now, the reason I bring this up is because this article is on The Hollywood Reporter, published by Scott Roxborough. The reason I bring this up is because for some reason, Uwe Boll is deciding to go back to Alone in the Dark. This article is on the Hollywood Reporter, published by Scott Roxborough. A little ways down here it says, Maverick German director Uwe Boll is rebooting the horror action franchise Alone in the Dark. Boll's Event Films has optioned the film rights to the hit survival horror video game series from publisher THQ Nordic. The H.P. Lovecraft-inspired franchise, which follows private detective Edward Carnby, in his fight against the undead, has spawned 7 games and sold millions of units worldwide. Boll adapted Alone in the Dark as a feature film in 2005, starring Christian Slater and Tara Reid. While widely panned by critics then and now, the film has since achieved a sort of cult status. Has it, though? Has it? Are you sure? Okay. For the reboot, Boll said he plans to stay closer to the original game, following the story of the latest 2024 release. We will capture the spirit and the era of the original games and follow the story of the new games, said Boll, noting, we can't wait to reboot the franchise and cast our new Edward Carnby. So, the other thing I should point out is that director Uwe Boll has done numerous video game to film adaptations, all of which are terrible. He did, obviously, Alone in the Dark. He directed a movie based on the video game House of the Dead. He did Blood Rain, Far Cry, and he did this movie. Um, which starred Jason Statham, called "In the Name of the King," a dungeon siege tale. Um, yeah. So, okay, So Uwe Boll is returning and to reinvent the Alone in the Dark film franchise. Given his track record of video game to film adaptations, when he says we're going to go back and we're going to reinvent and go back to, this will be closer to the source material. Even when he says that, I can't get excited. Like to me, I like his when if he's going to reinvent Alone in the Dark, it can't be any worse than the 2005 movie. It can't be. That would be, I mean, it could. I do not see how. Because that movie's terrible. Um I don't know. I mean, it's this seems like a desperate this seems like a desperate move by Uwe Boll to become popular again, like to be more of a recognized name, like he was recognized in the early 2000s because of all the crap that he put out. But beyond that, does anybody know his name anymore? And this seems like a desperate attempt to get people to know his name again. And by the way, the Alone in the Dark movies, like and I enjoy the Five Nights at Freddy's video games. I haven't seen the films. Like, but what's interesting to me is that modern gamers today think that, like, I've literally heard people say that Five Nights at Freddy's, like, I've heard people say Five Nights at Freddy's is scary as hell, and I'm like, y'all need to play some Resident Evil or some Alone in the Dark, because that shit will scare the crap out of you. Um, I again, this seems like a desperate attempt to become relevant again, and but if he's gonna reinvent Alone in the Dark, it has nowhere to go but up. So and I mean, you also have to remember, like, at that time, when the 2005 movie came out, Christian Slater and Tara Reid were hot names back then. Especially Tara Reid. Um anyway, uh so I like when I read this article, my first thought is this is a desperate attempt to become relevant again. And and my second thought is, God, I can't wait to see how awful this is. I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong. My God, those games are creepy as hell. Anyway, so jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about Uwe Boll returning to reinvent the Alone in the Dark film franchise. Are you as dubious as I am? Please tell me that you are. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Okay, so I believe over the past couple of episodes, I've talked about there's this upcoming uh, dramedy called Babies. Um, that is going to star Anna Kendrick, Seth Rogen, Issa Rae, Dan Stevens, and Zach Cherry, and Kate Berlant. And there has been more casting news uh, regarding that movie. So this article is on Deadline, published by Andreas Weissman. This article says Oscar nominee Sharon Stone, SAG nominee Ed Helms, Oscar nominee David Strathairn, and Tony nominee Ashley Park have joined AGC Studios and Monarch Media's starry comedy drama Babies from writer-director Lauren Miller Rogen. The synopsis, and this article does go on to say, the synopsis reads, struggling with the decision of whether or not to bring a child into the world, Annie, played by Anna Kendrick, and her husband Aaron, played by Seth Rogen, become instant co-parents when their newly divorced friend moves into their home with her 4-year-old. An ensemble comedy drama about the journey to parenthood or not. I think I said this last time, but this feels like it could be a very topical movie. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I think that especially these days, people are questioning whether or not to bring a child into this world. And I don't want to get too into it here, but it's kind of crazy out there. I have I fear for the future of the next generation after I fear for the future of this Gen Z and beyond. It's scary. So I think that this could be a very topical movie. So this cast is great. First of all, I love Anna Kendrick. She's one of my favorite actresses. I am a big Sharon Stone fan. What was the first movie I saw Sharon Stone in was first movie I saw Sharon Stone in. Well, Sharon Stone was in this movie that was directed by Sam Raimi called The Quick and the Dead, which is kind of this schlocky Western about a quick draw contest. It's schlocky, but I love it. It's great. And Sharon Stone kind of plays this Clint Eastwood kind of character. Hold on. And I'm a big fan of Total Recall, the original Total Recall with Schwarzenegger and Sharon Stone. And Sharon Stone is so good in that movie. And then, of course, obviously, Basic Instinct. All joking aside, Sharon Stone is fucking amazing in that movie. And the ending of that movie, the first time I watched Basic Instinct, the ending of that movie, I'm like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen? And she's great in Casino, with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. She's fantastic. I like David Strathairn a lot. David Strathairn has been in he's had a lot of great roles and been in a lot of great movies. He was in A League of Their Own, but I think his most memorable role was when he played it's gonna bug me. Um, he played Edward R. Murrow in Good Night and Good Luck, which was directed by George Clooney, and he was amazing in that movie. I mean, he was just he was very he played this very kind of straightforward business like character, but also you could tell at the heart of the character he was getting emotional about what was happening in the world. Um, and I loved him in that. That I think is my favorite David Strathairn performance, and probably his most popular one. I really like David Strathairn. Ed Helms is interesting. Ed Helms, I first, I when I was in high school, I was watching the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and excuse me, just a second. Um, when I was in high school, I was watching the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and Ed Helms uh, was on that show, and he was he was bloody hilarious on that show. And obviously the Hangover and other stuff that he's in. Ed Helms is um, a great he's a great comedic talent, and it'll be great to see him in a movie like this. It's not a straight it's a dramedy, so it's a mix of both comedy and drama, and it'll be great to see him kind of stretch those, exercise those muscles a bit, those drama muscles. This this sounds great to me, and again, it sounds very topical. It sounds like a movie that could be talked about in years to come. It's certainly a movie that I'm interested in. Um, so jump in the comment section and let me know your guys' thoughts on um, this movie, Babies, and um, the cast surrounding it. So this next bit of news, was it's this happened back in December. This happened last month, I believe, on December mid December. This next bit of news was quite sad to hear about. Um, there was an actor by the name of Peter Green. Um, he was a wonderful character actor. Um, he most um, I believe he was in The Usual Suspects, and he was in Training Day. Um, but his most notable roles, he played Zed in Pulp Fiction, and he played Dorian Tyrell in The Mask with Jim Carrey. He played the villain in The Mask. And back on December 13th, he died. Um, Peter Green died at the age of 60. Um, at at I haven't looked into the cause of death. Um, Not that that's a terribly big deal to me. But you know, I The Mask is one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. And Peter Green was a fantastic villain. Um, and and when he puts on the mask and becomes evil, uh, there's that great line in that movie where Jim Carrey, Stanley Ipkiss is describing to uh, Tina Carlisle, played by Cameron Diaz. He's describing what happens when you put the mask on, and you know, uh, he says it likes it's like it brings your innermost desires to life. If deep down inside you're this kind of person, you know, and Tina Carlisle, played by Cameron Diaz, she says, and if you're somebody like Dorian, and Jim Carrey says, then we're all in big trouble, and Dorian Gray, who played Dorian Tyrell, played by um, Peter Green, was a fantastic villain in that movie, and he was great as Zed in Pulp Fiction. I mean that's those two movies are probably his most well known, and Peter Green was a wonderful character actor, um, and you know, uh, it was I was very sad to hear of his death, and I just wanted to take a moment and talk about him. He was also in uh, um, he in Training Day he played one of uh, uh, Denzel Washington's squad members. Um, um, and he was also in. Oh, what's going on? I don't know what's going on with my light. He was also in Blue Streak with Martin Lawrence. So there's that. But I just wanted to say a few words about Peter Green, and anyone, especially and nothing against any other roles he's been in, but especially if you were a fan of Pulp Fiction or The Mask. I remember on social media. I'm not on social media much anymore, just for reasons that I won't get into right now. But I remember there was this thing I saw on Facebook that said, what's the first movie that you think of when you see the New Line Cinema Studios studio logo, the the logo for New Line Cinema, and I was like, The Mask. You know, um, I it I love that movie dearly, and so I just wanted to say a few words about Peter Green, and he will absolutely be missed, absolutely. Um, so I just wanted to say a few words before moving on here. Um, this next bit of news is interesting. Um, Something a bit more pleasant. Um, so there, in my mind, there are some franchises, and look, I say this all the time when it comes to film fandom. Never be ashamed of what movies you enjoy, even if there are a lot of what are considered bad movies that I enjoy. You know, um, some they my father used to say, "What's the artistic merit of this film?" Um, and there are a lot of quote unquote bad movies that I enjoy, but don't have a lot of artistic merit. Um, they're just simply good entertainment, and sometimes that's all you want. You sometimes you don't go to the movies or watch a movie for the next Oscar winner. You just want to have you just want to see a movie that has that's a piece of good entertainment. And I you know never, I always say, never be ashamed to admit what the kinds of films that you like, and I'll watch anything, you know. I'll give anything a shot. And the reason I say that is because one of the film franchises that I thoroughly enjoy, but I will also say you'll never see any of them win any Oscars, is the Paranormal Activity franchise. Now, I and I'm sure I am not the first person that this happened to. I when I when I have not seen any of the Paranormal Activity movies in the theater. Um, I've watched them all. I remember I was just bored one day and I was looking for movies that I had never watched. And I was bored at home and I was just like, you know what? I'll watch the Paranormal Activity movies because everybody, they're so. Especially the first one. The first one was kind of like, whoa! Like at that time when it came out, nobody had ever seen anything like it. And I remember having the opinion when the second one came out. I was like, well, now you're just destroying the mythos of the first one. Like the whole myth, the whole mythos of the original Paranormal Activity was that it was based on a true story, right? And then they're going to do a second one, and it's just like, well, why are you doing, like, is this like it was? How can you tell a true story twice? And then I found out, and again, I say this. I was under the impression that the Paranormal Activity movies were based on that franchise is based on a true story. And then I found out that it wasn't. And I was a little disappointed that it wasn't because I believe that some of the best horror films are based off of true stories. But as a aspiring filmmaker myself, even though I learned that the Paranormal Activity movies are not based on true stories, I still can watch them and appreciate the craft and the filmmaking that goes into making those movies. Like, as an aspiring filmmaker, I watch those movies, and some of the and the stuff that they do in those movies, in terms of the stunts and the like the craft and like the effects in the movies. Again, as an aspiring filmmaker myself, I watch those movies and go, how did they do that? Like, I would love to know how they did that. So even though I'm a bit disappointed that um, they're not based on true stories, I can appreciate the craft and the filmmaking and the hard work that goes into. Like, I watch those movies and go, wait, what? Like I would love to go behind the scenes and find out how they did that. So I believe I've seen all of them. Let me look this up here. Um, so there was Paranormal Activity 1, 2, 3, 4. Then there was the marked ones. Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. Then there was Paranormal Activity, the Ghost Dimension. Then there was. Okay. So I haven't seen. There's Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. I haven't seen that one. So Next of Kin is the only one that I haven't seen. That's the one that came out on Paramount Plus. But there is going to be an eight. Yeah, eight. There's going to be a Paranormal Activity 8. This article is on Joe Blow, published by Cody Haman. Let me see here. And this, so I should point out that this article was published on January 8th. So I just want to give that context. So a little ways down in this article, it says that a couple weeks ago, so a couple weeks prior to January 8th, it was announced that a new Paranormal Activity movie is in the works at Paramount, with genre regular James Wan from the Conjuring universe and Saw and Insidious joining the franchise to produce the film alongside Jason Blum. The Hollywood Reporter has broken the news that the new movie has found a director, Ian Tuason. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So Ian Tuason is said to be in final negotiations to take on the directing gig. So he's got the job. Let's see. Ian Tuason got his start by making live-action virtual reality horror shorts, which got millions of views on YouTube and a showcase at South by Southwest Film Festival. His feature debut, Undertone, premiered at the Fantasia International Film Festival earlier this year, where it won the Audience Award and sparked a distribution bidding war. A24 Studios overcame 5 other bidders to land the distribution rights, making a deal that was said to be in the mid-7 figures. Undertone follows the host of an all things creepy podcast who moves into her dying mother's house to be her primary caregiver. When her podcast is sent 10 audio recordings of a young pregnant couple experiencing paranormal noises, she realizes the woman's story is a mirror of her own, and each new recording scratches at her sanity, drawing her into a fate she cannot escape. Nina Kiri stars in the film, and her character Evie is the only on-camera speaking role in the entire film. So much of the film relies on the sound design that Tuason has described it as a found audio movie rather than a found footage movie. It will be screening at Sundance next month. As the Hollywood Reporter notes, Tuason has previously said that the 3 movies that creep him out the most are The Exorcist, The Blair Witch Project, and the original Paranormal Activity. Okay. So, it sounds like, and I could be wrong here, but it sounds like, so Jason Blum has kind of been has been on the record of saying, like, I think we're done. Like, what, like, why do we keep going at this Paranormal Activity thing? Like it's like he's been on the record of saying, like, it's played out. And Next of Kin, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. This article does point out that it wasn't Jason Blum's idea to make that movie, and he described it as terrible. Um, but it sounds to me in this article that the involvement of James Wan has um, ignited interest to do. Let's just try to do one more. Like the involvement of James Wan, like, oh, James Wan wants to produce this movie. He sees something in the franchise that maybe Jason Blum doesn't. Let's try to do one more now that Jason Blum is involved. Um, so I'm not familiar with this Undertone movie or Ian Toyson as a director. But it sounds this Undertone movie sounds up like it's right up the alley of the Paranormal Activity film franchise. It definitely sounds like it. Now, this article points out that Ian Toyson has previously said that the three movies that creep him out the most are The Exorcist, The Blair Witch Project, and the original Paranormal Activity. The Blair Witch Project? Really? Okay. I'm sorry. I do not understand the hype behind that movie. That movie's not very good. It's not very good. However, the original Paranormal Activity is really it's creepy. It's really creepy. And when he mentions The Exorcist, I'm like, oh, thank God, because The Exorcist, in my mind, is at a tie for the greatest horror film of all time. So it's, in my mind, it's great that this director Ian Toyson is a fan of that film. So there's going to be an 8th Paranormal Activity movie. Okay. I can't. I mean, I'm entertained by these movies. I don't know about anybody else. If I hear it's entertaining, I'll see it. If it goes straight to streaming, I probably won't. Like Next of Kin did. That's probably why I didn't see Next of Kin, is like it went straight to streaming, and I'm like, yeah, there's probably a reason why. uh, you know, but again, this movie Undertone sounds right up the alley of Paranormal Activity. Uh, and with Jason Blum involved, he obviously has experience making horror films. So with his input, I have faith that this could at least be entertaining. But probably won't win any Oscars like any of the others did. Like it won't win Oscars much like the others. These aren't Oscar caliber movies. If I hear it's entertaining, I'll see it. I don't know what else to say. It feels like, again, on Jason Blum's part, if I'm Jason Blum, I'm going, oh, James Wan wants to produce one. He wants to produce one. I'll get behind it simply because, if I'm Jason Blum, I'm going, all right, if Jason Blum wants to do one, I guess I'll do it. But this is it. This is it. So there's going to be an 8th Paranormal Activity movie. So jump in the comments section and let me know your thoughts about this. One last bit of news here for this episode, and this is rather interesting. So one of my favorite actors right now is Lakeith Stanfield. He's been in a lot of interesting projects. He was most recently saw him in this movie last year called One Battle After Another with Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro, um, which I believe will win Best Picture at the Oscars. I could be wrong, um, but it's great. And Lakeith Stanfield was in that movie. He's made a lot of interesting choices. He was in Roof Man, which is great as well. Um, he was in Get Out. So this he's going to be in this next movie that he's going to be in. It sounds rather interesting. So this article is on Joe Blow, published by Steve Saig. um, this article says, according to Lionsgate Studios, Lakeith Stanfield is set to star in 48 Hours in Vegas for director Rick Famuyiwa. Rick Famuyiwa directed Dope. He directed some episodes of The Mandalorian. So this is interesting. So let me go on here. 48 Hours in Vegas. The film is inspired by the untold story of Dennis Rodman's legendary trip to Las Vegas during the 1998 NBA Finals, just as the Rodman-led Chicago Bulls were on the verge of completing their second consecutive three-peat championship in 8 years. According to the film's official description, courtesy of Lionsgate, 48 Hours in Vegas will take audiences through 2 whirlwind days in Sin City and Rodman's madcap, possibly true adventures. So this sounds interesting. Now, I do want to. This article does point out, and I feel like I should bring this up, that the role of Dennis Rodman in this movie was originally going to be played by Jonathan Majors, who was in Creed 3, and he played Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Without going, I think there's, and then obviously a lot of real life shit happened with Jonathan Majors, which I will not go into. However, I do think, simply from an acting standpoint, I personally think that Lakeith Stanfield is the better choice. I think I also think that this Lakeith Stanfield is already, he's one of my favorite actors. He's a really popular name. I think him doing this movie could really uh, um, uh, really make him a household name. Um, and him being in a movie like this is and again, I don't know too much about this theoretical real life story, but it sounds wild to me. And seeing Lakeith Stanfield play Dennis Rodman, I think it's perfect casting. I think it's perfect. Especially given how I think Lakeith Stanfield could really tap into the flamboyance of Dennis Rodman. This sounds interesting. This sounds wild, and Dennis Rodman will be one of the executive producers, producers of the film, so that's cool. Um, again, and I love Lakeith Stanfield. He's someone that I will see whatever he's in, and him playing Dennis Rodman, that could really. I'm trying to. It will really put him on the path to superstardom. Like this could be. This could be similar to when, and I'm not saying that this movie will be of the quality, but this could, in terms of career choices, this could be very similar to when Leonardo DiCaprio did Titanic. Like Leonardo DiCaprio was already a name before he did that movie, and and Titanic just rocketed him into space. If this 48 Hours in Vegas movie is good, I think this could do for Lakeith Stanfield what Titanic did for Leonardo DiCaprio. Not that Lakeith Stanfield needs it, but I'm saying if it's good, this could really rock it. This could be a similar situation. Um, Again, this sounds. I keep using the word wild, but this is exactly what it is. And I think again, Lakeith Stanfield fits the bill. I mean, this this sounds great. Hopefully, it's good. Who's Yeah. So jump in the comment section and Lakeith Stanfield. And I bring this up every, not to brag or not to toot my own horn, but I bring this up every time. Uh, I, 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 I've worked on a handful of film and TV productions, and one of those productions was a movie called The Harder They Fall. It's a Netflix movie, and Lakeith Stanfield. Um, I'm forgetting what character he played. Um, but um, Cherokee Bill. So, and again, I don't bring this up to brag. It's just a matter of, like, I'm just personally proud that I worked on a movie. I'm not bringing it up to toot my own horn or anything like that. But Lakeith Stanfield was in that movie. It's a Netflix original movie called The Harder They Fall, um, and it's great. If you and I'm not just saying that because I worked on it. Like I've seen the movie and it's great. And like if I thought it was garbage, I would tell you it's garbage. Um, but Lakeith Stanfield was in that movie, and he's been in a lot of other things, and he's a wonderful actor. And I can't wait. I hope this movie's good. He's certainly, this is perfect casting in my mind. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts about 48 Hours in Vegas. All right, so that'll about do it for this episode 45 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show. I am going to do as many episodes as I can today because today is my day off and I haven't been able to do many episodes lately, but I wanted to break them apart so you're not listening to me ramble for several consecutive hours. Which I could, maybe you find that exhausting. I don't know. But I do have fun doing the show. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I will be on soon after this episode uploads. Going to take a small break to eat. But I will be back on a little later. So I hope you guys continue to enjoy the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I always say, spread the word about this show. Tell your friends. If you have any comments or questions, leave a comment, or you can email me at the address listed in the description, and go see 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, because it's awesome. And you know what? Go see, if you haven't seen it, go see the new Avatar, because it's pretty good. It's it's pretty good, you know. And I like those movies. So go see Avatar: Fire and Ash. And by the way, there's an actress in Avatar: Fire and Ash. Um, there's an actress by the name of Una Chaplin. Una Chaplin, who is Charlie Chaplin's granddaughter. And she's great in that movie. She's she's great. She's great. Una Chaplin. So that was, as a fan of film history, seeing, and she plays the villain. She plays the villain who was named Varang. Um, as a fan of film history, getting to see a film that has Charlie Chaplin's granddaughter in it, that was like, wow. That was really, really cool. So go see the new Avatar, because it's pretty good. I will say, I think the quality of each Avatar movie, in my personal opinion, I think the quality of each Avatar movie has diminished. Like I really enjoyed the original Avatar. The second movie I really liked. I think this one is the weakest one, but it's still pretty entertaining. It's you know. So if you haven't seen, and it's made $1 billion, and there are people who doubt James Cameron, and I'm like, why? Like, he's never made a bad movie, you know. He's never made an objectively bad movie. But anyway, so go see Avatar, go see 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Yeah, so I'll be back on later. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And as always, I will see you at the movies.